everyone. Welcome to Melissa's Musings today. We have a familiar face on the camera. John.
Yeah, featured friend.
My featured friend for the day. So I can't believe we're like 200 episodes in.
And this is the first time I've ever been on a Melissa's Musings.
Oh, do you want to tag John Steele in this video? I do. Facebook, thanks for being creepy.
That's weird.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So as some of you come in today to join us, welcome. Happy Friday. Featured Friend Friday today. We've got John on the show, and we're talking about relationships today. Noticing my hair is doing something very bizarre, but that's okay. So many of you know we are the dynamic duo behind SteeleSanDiegoHomes.com. John is my life and business partner. So we have a really special and beautiful and sometimes crazy dynamic, considering that we do spend so much time together. And one of the questions that we often get is like, how do you guys do it? We get couples who come up to us all the time that are like, how do you work with your spouse? Or like, how do you keep your relationship so hot and spicy?
Yeah, a lot of people say they like could never work with their spouse too, so we get that a lot as well.
Yeah, so being that we work together, we still love each other, we jive every day together, we wanted to come to you guys with a musing on our relationship and some of the tips and tricks that we use to make it work.
Yeah. Oh.
So do you want to start out by telling our story,
we met? Sure, I can dive into that. So we met, it would have been, what, like 8.5 years ago?
8.5 years ago now.
At this point, in college, I was going to University of Buffalo, and then she was going to Canisius College, which was a small private school in Buffalo.
Side note, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us below.
And yeah, basically, I was single at the time, had just gotten out of a longer term relationship. She had gotten out of a longer term relationship, and neither one of us was looking for anything. And my friend of mine from high school was living with Melissa at the time, and I just reached out to her to see what they were doing.
We were looking for some single lady friends.
Planning on going out partying and stuff, and just reached out to her like, hey, what are you guys doing? Do you have any single friends? She told me no, actually.
I wasn't single at the time. I was seeing someone else.
Sort of, yeah. So yeah, she told me no, and I was like, whatever, I'm bored and just looking for something to do. So I went out, and yeah, it was actually the first night we met was definitely a very Hollywood.
I joked that he had googly eyes because I was like coming out of a bathroom with my friend, and I was like, who's this guy? Because he was like, he had these eyeballs that were very much checking me out.
So yeah, right from day one, like honestly, we hit it off right away. Like that first night we danced and partied like the whole night together and had a fantastic time, and the rest is history. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of what I feel like the beauty of our relationship, the fact that it started out where we had no expectations from each other. I feel like because we'd gotten out of long-term relationships, we'd had a very clear picture at the time of, like, for each individual. For me, I had a very clear picture of what worked in my last relationship and what didn't work, like what I was no longer willing to tolerate from any man. And I feel like you had a really similar experience in your relationship, your past relationship, right? Like coming out of that and really finding your own and having a clear understanding of what you wanted out of your relationship and what you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think with my past one, I had invested so much in like making the other person happy at the expense of myself and necessarily what I wanted to do. And I realized that after the fact. And yeah, when I was approaching a new relationship, essentially when I was just, not looking for anything, I was very committed to just doing what I wanted and being me, sort of thing. I think you were in the same place.
Absolutely, and I think that's why it worked. Just careful because you keep banging. I think that's why it worked so well. Sorry. Our camera equipment's like vibrating in the corner. So I think that's why it worked out so well, because we really didn't have a lot of expectations for each other, but we had a really clear picture of what we wanted from our relationship. And like John said, for both of us, our experience had been to that point. In a relationship with somebody else, it had very much been a lot of giving of ourselves to make it work for the other person, which those of you who may be in a relationship like that or have been in a relationship like that understand how exhausting that can really be. The exhaustion of doing so much to try and make it work where it maybe isn't meant to work out in the first place. So we were coming out of relationships like that, bonded, found each other, and spent the next 6 months having a dandy old time, having fun together.
Yeah, just living college life.
Living college life before John even asked me out. And so that's really how it all started. That's how the beauty of John and I began. And from that time, we've obviously grown a lot. We've had a lot happen. And I feel very grateful and fortunate to have, even though we've had a lot of ups and downs in our relationship, through my health issues, through us building a business, I would say we've had a lot of ups and downs. We've done so much growing together. That's been really powerful, I think, having the common goals that we have for ourselves and for each other, but doing a lot of growing.
Yeah, well, I think you may have mentioned, I don't know, I feel like you've mentioned this on previous Melissa's Musings, but it's kind of like the 1 + 1 = 3 concept. And I think, like, coming out of our relationships, that's what we did, is, like, you have to kind of be your own whole person and be responsible for your own happiness and, you know, what's coming into your life, and don't put that responsibility on the other person. You know, she's not responsible to, like, make me happy, essentially. Yes, obviously, like, she does those things, but I can't blame, like, my happiness or unhappiness, like, on her. But, like, when we come together, like, we have our relationship. So it's me plus her, and then the third is our relationship, and we get to work on all three of those things at the same time.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, because that's really been the basis of our relationship from the very first day, and it's what carries us through to now. Anytime where, you know, we may be mid-argument or having a conversation with each other or communicating about, you know, whatever it may be, and we'll recognize that in each other. The fact that maybe I'll say something like, oh, but I wanted this from you or something. And he'll be like, well, I'm not necessarily responsible for that. And it's true. And that type of awareness around our relationship and our responsibility to not only ourselves, but to each other, we're very committed in our relationship to not giving at our expense, but to give to each other from our overflow, and to give of our relationship from our overflow. So John isn't going to be able to come in and do like a super hot, awesome date night if he's been depleting himself of his own habits all week, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So some of the things that we have a few tips and tricks for you guys that we really, that dictate a lot of our relationship and really have contributed to the success of our relationship. I would say the number one thing for us is fun. So being best friends in a relationship, I find, is very important and powerful, because you get to communicate, you get to really, like, be in tune with your partner, and your partner should very much be a priority. So for us, fun is very important. I find that when we're getting at each other and getting into arguments,
it's something we're still working on.
It is. We have learned,
especially with the business. We often find ourselves in the cycle sometimes of putting that stuff on the back burner, but we notice very quickly, I feel like, when
as soon as we start getting frustrated or going at each other, the first indication of something that's missing and what's in the gap is usually fun.
Yeah.
If we're, like, agitated with each other,
it's usually too much business and not enough husband-wife. Yeah.
Yeah. If we're starting to go at it or, like, be frustrated with each other or just have short of patience, it's usually a surefire time to have some fun. And so what that looks like for us, we do all kinds of things. One of the things that we're very committed to in our relationship, we do, and we have not been good about this the last few months because we've been doing so much traveling, so we get to very much prioritize it moving forward. But we love to plan, like, a surprise date for each other once a month. So, like, in a 4-week window, I would plan a date for John and he would plan a date for me, unbeknownst to me. So, like, he would plan something. So, for example, I've taken John on, like, a surprise picnic before and picked him up from an appointment, been like, we're going.
Gone to art galleries, the beach,
you took
the
me
park.
to the shooting range recently.
Yeah,
that was a really good one. I was like, where are we? What is this? So that's one of the things, and that really encourages, like, thoughtfulness on the person that's planning. You know, like, whoever is planning it gets to really put some thought and love into it. And then it helps the other partner feel really special. So that's something we've loved doing. And then we've also had to schedule fun. So like John mentioned, if we're seeing ourselves having too much business, like maybe there's 10 days in a row that we've worked and we haven't taken, like, a fun afternoon, we will literally put that in our calendar and schedule that time, because we get to prioritize ourselves and our relationship, and fun is a really important aspect of that.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just communication through the whole thing, and that relationships take work. Yeah. I think a lot of, like, my single people I know, like friends and family, and even just, you know, seeing comments and stuff online, social media or whatever it is, a lot of people I think have it in their head that a relationship, it's just great all the time, and that if it's not great, that it's not working, or that it's broken, or for some reason that this person's not right for me. And I think the biggest thing that having been in a relationship for now 8 years, it takes work. It takes a lot of work, and there's going to be highs and lows, and it's just how you work through those, and how you communicate effectively with your partner, and just overcoming those obstacles. And if it's something that you really value in your life and you value that relationship, then it's worth fighting for, type of thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think communication is absolutely number one, most important, like uncompromised, absolutely a necessity to a relationship, because it can be something so small, like a simple communication shift that you need from your partner, but without communication it can grow into something so big. And so really all of these little things can grow into big massive things if we're not communicating them. So it's all about connecting with your partner, communicating effectively what it is that like you need, and what your experience of them is, and fulfilling that need. And then also, like, I love what you said about being willing to like put in the work even at times where it's not good. Like, a lot of people have this mentality like, oh my goodness, we're arguing, like, is this the end of it all? Like, no. If you have a commitment to each other, and your commitment is like 100%, my commitment is John, therefore, like, there may be 2 weeks that go by where we're in like completely at each other and in a tumultuous time and very stressed in other aspects of our life and taking it out on each other, and I'm not running for the hills and like signing my divorce paperwork. I'm really committed to figuring out, okay, like, this has been a really rough 2 weeks. What gets to change in order to us to shift into something better? And so, like, that's a constant commitment and a constant conversation, because that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relationships take work. Yeah.
They do.
I feel like especially if you're getting married, like, don't expect just 50, 60, 70 years of just
joy.
gravy. Yeah, and rainbows,
Of joy and rainbows and unicorns. Because while that is absolutely an amazing cherry on top of a marriage sundae, I feel like there are a lot of things that you get to work through with your partner.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think we covered a lot. We got a few people join.
We did. I see some of you guys out there. Thank you for those of you who are joining in right now or watching on the replay. We were talking relationships today with the Steele team in work and life. And we're about to transition into sex. So sex is really important. I have a lot of friends, even just at the young age of 30, who it seems like sex is not a priority, or it's, something that happens every few months or at a few unique times throughout the year. Sex is a really important priority for us in our relationship, because regardless of the actual act of sex, I find that time with your partner is really important, that intimacy. So whether it's 5 minutes or a 2-hour situation with you and your partner, you really get to connect on that level on a regular basis, or at least what works for you guys. I have some partners, or I have some friends who like are totally fine with like an every other week situation. Some people have things that work for them. Like, maybe once a month is your jam, but maybe you have massages for each other like once a week or something. It's very important to have intimacy. Is really what we're going for.
I was gonna say, like,
it doesn't
the
even
sex
have to be
itself
like
depends
sex.
more on people. Everybody's got their own.
Everybody has a personal preference. You may not even like it, but like the intimacy aspect is very important. And that's really what we wanted to drive home in like this sex aspect of this video.
Yeah, just time to make your partner feel special. To get intimate.
To be private.
Yeah.
So make private time for your partner. There should be absolutely time for fun, and then there should be intimacy time as well.
And I think that just goes back to the communication too.
Again, back to communication. I think everything comes down to communication in a relationship. And not only relationship with your partner, I mean, you guys can see it in your lives. The more communication that you're having with certain individuals in your life, and the more open you are with those individuals, I can pretty much guarantee that you're having better and more open relationships with the people that you're open with in your life. So with that, we leave you guys with these little tips and tricks. I feel like the relationship aspect has been on my mind a lot because we've been getting a lot of questions about it, being very much in wedding spirit this year with our dozen weddings. And we just celebrated 8 years together last week and 4 years of marriage.
Yeah, July 12th.
So, with a lot of work and a lot of beautiful efforts, I have been beautifully married to this guy for 8 years.
It's great to be on Melissa's Musings.
I know, John. Your
Episode
first feature.
whatever?
205.
205. Took me 205 episodes.
Hopefully we'll have him on before 410.
We'll see.
All right, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Friday. Hope you have an amazing weekend. I will be chatting with you guys soon, I am sure. Talk to you soon.
Bye.